Okay, I'm tackling a younger perfumer today. I'm talking about LUCA MAFFEI, and I've got 21 fragrances here that he's created in this video, and we're going to talk about his fragrances all the way back to 2014, not so long ago, almost 10 years ago, to now, 2023. So if you're interested in finding out about LUCA MAFFEI's fragrances, then please stay tuned. So much for tuning in to Sebastian. Yes, I'm talking about LUCA MAFFEI's fragrances. He's a younger perfumer. In fact, I've got a couple of videos on the channel. One from last year, I actually visited his atelier in Milan. He is an independent perfumer, and he's got his own facility of employees that work there and work on notes and ingredients and put fragrances together and finish them and manufacture them and everything. If you want to find out more about that, you can just search LUCA MAFFEI on the channel. And there's a video from last year, and there's also an interview that I did with him back in 2017 at Aix. That video, the audio is not the best, but the one from last year, the audio is great. But we're going to talk about his fragrances today. As I said, he's a younger perfumer, so not a lot of fragrances going back past 2014. In fact, the first one I'm going to talk to you about is for a fragrance house called ACCA, and this is Black Pepper and Sandalwood, this one right here. Are you familiar with this house? So this house is probably known for a fragrance called Muschio Bianco or Bronco. It's a white musk, white moss kind of a fragrance, very clean and airy. That is a fragrance that's very popular for the house, but this is a pretty darn good fragrance. It's very warm, spicy, and also creamy. It's got warm spices like cloves and cinnamon along with black pepper. Then there's that sandalwood in there, which gives you a kind of a creamy vibe. There's saffron in here. There's also some nutmeg, which is adding more warmth, and resins, and a bit of rosiness in here. So it's really smooth and warm and spicy. I would say this is like an autumn-winter fragrance, not like a loud fragrance. But if you like the idea of cloves, sandalwood together with the cinnamon and nutmeg, definitely check out Black Pepper and Sandalwood from the house of ACCA. One of my favorite fragrances he's ever created came out in 2015. This is one of the best rose fragrances for me as well. It's Rose de Taif Extrait from the house of PERRIS Monte Carlo. Such a beautiful, gorgeous, jammy, juicy rose here. It's Taif rose, Damask rose, rose, geranium, lemons, amber, rome, nutmeg, bergamot, elemi, cloves, musk and Peru balsam. Man, the combination is so delicious. The lemons against all the three kinds of roses that are in here gives you this really intense, kind of a citrusy rose boost. And it's almost like rose jam because it's thick and syrupy. Jammy is the word I should say here when you're wearing it, but there's that lemon and tinge in there that gives you a bit of tartness in the fragrance, which is really great. But there's some warm spices in here, some additional citruses, and of course balsamic notes and musk. Super delicious fragrance. My favorite rose fragrance, by the way. I wouldn't call Portrait of a Lady a rose fragrance because that is also rose as well. This is definitely all about rose, and if I'm saying my favorite rose fragrance, this would definitely be it. So it's Rose de Taif Extrait from the house of PERRIS Monte Carlo. I'm not so much of a fan of the eau de parfum. I'm in love with the Extrait. Moving on to a house called Jules et Mad. This is Garuda, this one right here. Yeah, this one I bought in 2016. I instantly fell in love with it because it's patchouli and amber combo, and this one also has oud. I don't talk about this fragrance much. It's been sitting in the back, but as I was putting this video together, the notes, I thought, oh my god, I've forgotten all about Garuda, but it is really great fragrance. If you like the idea of amber with patchouli and musk and spices and things like that in here, this is definitely one for you to try. There are some citrusy touches in there as well, but for me, the patchouli and the amber and the oud really pop and shine here. But I gotta also warn you, there's cumin in here, so some of you might be put off by that. On me, the cumin is super sexy, super sexy. And I'm glad I found this again because I really love this one because I like that combination of warm spices, fresh spices, and the amber, patchouli, vanilla, and the woods together. Really great. Garuda from the house of Jules et Mad. So the first three fragrances I spoke to you about are unisex. This next one is a feminine targeted release from the house of HOUBIGANT. This is Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. In 2017 is when this one launched. So this is a modern take on the classic fragrance from HOUBIGANT. And for me, also, it doesn't scream feminine. It's got Narcissus here. Narcissus is not necessarily that uber feminine flower. You see it in men's fragrances as well. It's a yellow flower, so it's got a bit of funky indolic characteristic about it, but not necessarily like jasmine in a different way. So it's a very interesting fragrance, and that's also a yellow flower, of course, but there's a bit of a green vibe here. And to me, this hints at a fragrance called Green from Byredo. I don't know if you guys ever remember that fragrance, but this reminds me of it. But it's Narcissus, Ambrette seeds, this musky note. There's musk and white amber, sandalwood, ylang ylang, rose, and neroli. Such a great fragrance. It is feminine targeted, but check it out if you're a man, and especially since it reminds me of Green from Byredo. Do you guys remember that fragrance? It's been long discontinued, but that is definitely a great alternative for it. So just to let you know, I don't have every single LUCA MAFFEI fragrance, so there are some brands I don't have any of his fragrances that he's created. So unfortunately, this is what I have in the studio. There's more, but I tried to put together not more than 2 fragrances from each house so I can compile a list. But this next fragrance is going to the house of JACQUES, and he's created a bunch of fragrances for this house. So you can go to that database and find a lot of fragrances for JACQUES. But I'm highlighting LILAS EXQUIS, this one right here. It's a wonderful lilac fragrance, launched in 2017. And it does feature lilac flower, hyacinth, linden blossom, musk, woods, ambrette, bergamot, blueberries, and lilies. So this is definitely the ultimate in spring smelling fragrance because it's got that lilac blooming in the spring, hyacinth blooming in the spring, linden blossom late spring, early summer, and then it's got musk, woods, and other musky notes. It's a light fruitiness in here as well, but super amazing. If you like lilac as a flower, as a smell, definitely check out LILAS EXQUIS. Now this next fragrance might be a bit challenging. For me, it's a bit challenging, but get used to it. It's from the house of the Histoire de Parfums. This is APARTE Irreverent, this one right here. It's super smoky and resinous and very dry amber. It's elemi resin, that's the star note here. And it's got this very interesting characteristic. It's spicy. For me, it's peppery and also a bit lemony. But it's very dark here. It's got styrax in addition to the elemi, amber, patchouli, coffee, sandalwood, lavender, and bergamot. The bergamot and lavender are fairly faint in here. It's a very dark fragrance. The bottle, as you can see, the darkness, it's kind of inky black. That's how the fragrance wears to me. It's very dark and dry amber. If you like the idea of dry ambers, definitely check out APARTE Irreverent, this one right here. So that launched in 2017. All right, we're going to the house of Histoire de Parfums once again, and this is not a blue bottle, 1.5. This one right here. So this is a fragrance I do need to warn you that it's on its way out. It's discontinued, but I still see some stock out there. If you're a fan of molecular fragrances, aldehydic fragrances, ozonic fragrances, get your bottle now because it is at the discounters and it's fairly inexpensive, but soon it's going to be on its way out. I don't know why it's discontinued, but there's a series of 5 different fragrances in this series. This is the 5th one, I believe. So this launched in 2017. And again, as I said, it's ozonic, it's aldehydic, it's got ambroxan, so it's molecular. Along with those notes, there's mineral notes, there's musk and floral notes. The floral notes are faint, the mineral notes are faint, but mostly about the ozonic notes. So it's crisp, watery, and also a bit violet leaf-like, and then aldehydes. It's very fizzy and airy. It lifts the fragrance up, and uber musky. It's a great fragrance. I use these kind of fragrances to wear something minimalistic, skin scent-like, or I use them sometimes to actually intensify other fragrances, to boost and prime other fragrances, and just use it as a base and then spray a lighter fragrance on it. So then it just makes the other fragrance project more. Either way, a great scent. This is not a blue bottle, 1.5 from the house of Histoire de Parfums, launched in 2017. And another fragrance launched in 2017. It's Terra Mia, back to the house of Cartusia, or this is the first time I'm speaking about this house. We've got another fragrance coming later. And this to me is kind of like a take on something like Intense Cafe or Cafe Tuberosa, in that it goes into a nutty direction with these kind of smells. This is more like Cafe Tuberosa, which is discontinued, but it's coffee, hazelnuts, vanilla, rose, amberwood, orange blossom. No milkiness here, no tuberose as well. It's mostly the coffee, vanilla, hazelnuts, and the rose. That's what you're wearing here, and it smells super delicious. So this is Terra Mia from the house of Cartusia. Let me know if you are a fan of that fragrance. So back to the house of Jacques Fath. This is Le Loden, this one right here. And Le Loden is a super, super classy vetiver fragrance in that it is kind of a Guerlain-esque vetiver. And it's got juniper berries along with the vetiver. There's some smoky, ashy tobacco in here. Patchouli, ginger, pink pepper, geranium, and mandarin. Super, super classy. They have now 2 vetiver fragrances. The other one is not created by LUCA MAFFEI. It's another Jean-Christophe Hérault. That one is actually a nutty, fresh vetiver. This is more deep and rich and earthy, and also, you know, the earth. It smells of the earth, like the roots. It's rooty kind of a vetiver. But all these other notes come through and makes for a very masculine wear, whereas the other vetiver, I believe it's called Vetiver Gris by Jean-Christophe Hérault, is more fresh and very fresh and nutty. But either way, this is a super classy vetiver here from the house of Jacques Fath. It's Le Loden. Now, next fragrance, we're going to a house that I haven't spoken much about on the channel, although I have done a video on their fragrances. You can search the brand. This is Le Monarque number 1, this one right here. So this is a fragrance that LUCA MAFFEI created, and instantly super delicious fragrance with the types of notes there are in here. So they only claim floral notes in here, so it's super fresh floral notes. If you like the idea of fresh floral fragrances, you must get your nose on this one because he did a great job with this one. But what I get with this one, I get fresh touches for sure. The fragrance is extremely fresh. Do get floral touches. It's an uber floral fragrance, but in the background there's some citrusiness, there's a bit of tartness mixed in with all the flowers. And you know, I'm getting non-distinct flowers, but I would say there's something like jasmine in here, tuberose, maybe a bit lily, magnolia, maybe a bit of lily of the valley and things like that, because that leads me to say this is a bit green as well. Lily of the valley gives me that kind of a green vibe. So there's definitely greenness in here, which is really like a spring-like smell. Along with that, there's some woods thrown in the base. I'm getting some woodsiness. For sure, the flowers are creamy. With white flowers, I do get a creaminess, so there's definitely the creamy effect in this. And last but not least, there's a watery effect here as well, like rained on white flowers, dewy kind of flowers. It's a great fragrance. Le Monarque 1 from 2018. Try and get your nose on that one. It's super amazing. Going back to the house of PERRIS Monte Carlo, this Cedro di Diamante, this one right here. So this is part of the collection of citrus fragrances, and there's 4 or 5 in this series, and I think he's done 2 or 3 of the fragrances LUCA has done. This came out in 2018 and features notes of citron, ginger, lemons, cardamom, oak moss, musk, iris, lime, lemon verbena, and a few other notes. But it's super fresh and super citrusy, a bit tart and astringent, but also sweet at the same time. And you're basically giving tribute to the citron note, which is a type of a lemon. Really great. But what I like about this one is that kind of spice, the fresh spice that the ginger has that's in here. So it gives you a bit of a zing when you're wearing it. And of course you've got other spices along the way as well in musk. Very clean and citrusy, very fresh and zingy. It's Cedro di Diamante from the house of PERRIS Monte Carlo. Then we're going back to the house of HOUBIGANT, and if you guys didn't know, PERRIS Monte Carlo and HOUBIGANT are sister houses. And then we've got HOUBIGANT's Bois Mystique here. This is one of the fragrances in the masculine collection, along with Fougère Royale, Cologne Intense, the Fig Noir, and there's 4 new ones that I need to get my nose on and do a video on, but we're talking about Bois Mystique, one of my favorites, and it's a really masculine, woody, creamy woody fragrance, and it has notes of cardamom, cedar, incense, pink pepper, cypriol, myrrh, cashmere wood, ginger, neroli, and a bunch of other notes. For me, this one also kind of reminds me of Creed's Royal Oud, but it's a thicker, denser take on that, and it's a really, really classy masculine fragrance. I actually gave a bottle of this to my nephew. He swore to me and said, this is the best fragrance you've ever given me. And I've actually given him a bottle of Royal Oud from Creed as well. I don't know if you got the connection, but he said this is the best fragrance I've given to him. Anyway, Bois Mystique is super masculine, really wonderful offering from the house of HOUBIGANT. All right, now going back to the house of Cartusia, it's Amare. This one right here came out in 2021, the height of the pandemic, and boy, he did a great job with this one. It's a marine fragrance without that fishiness, which I really, really love. This smells great. If it's fishy, it turns me off. No, thank you. But this one is watery, ozonic, aquatic, but not marine. It has salty notes, mint, rosemary, bergamot, cedar, gaiac wood, musk, and patchouli. It smells really great, and it's perfect to wear in the summertime when it's hot outside, or if you want a little bit of a sea breeze like smell with aromatics and things during the winter months when it's dark and cold outside. Try Amare. It'll brighten up your day. Amare is great from the house of Cartusia. I think it's become my favorite fragrance from that house. It's really, really good. Then moving on to the house of Gallivant, it's Naples, this one right here. Are you guys familiar with Naples? Are you guys familiar with Gallivant? So this is a very unique fragrance. It's paying tribute to Naples. Have you guys been to Naples? I've been once, and I had a great time there, but it was pretty frenetic, and enjoyed my time though. Really great food and really lovely people. Gelato, amazing. But this stuff is kind of taking everything that Naples is known about and combining it in a fragrance. It has sea salt, incense resinoid, fume incense, bergamot, ozonic notes, ginger, cardamom, nutmeg, leather, lavender, pink pepper. It's almost like a, you know, like everything that happens in Naples is here. So we've got the ozonic fresh notes, the sea salt for the marine notes, church incense and things like that. Of course, the bergamot Calabria is nearby. So you've got this very interesting cornucopia of notes, all inspired by the city of Naples. This wonderful city, very, very chaotic and hectic city that I had a great time, and I can't wait to go back. But this is a fragrance paying tribute to that city, and a great creation by LUCA MAFFEI. And both of these came out in 2021, Amare in Naples, and they do have, you know, that kind of marine-ish touches in both of them. But they're not going fishy, which is really, really great. So this is Naples from the house of Gallivant. Next, going to the house of Maison Tahiti. It's Vicious Cacao, this one right here. So this is a cocoa lover's dream come true, but it's cocoa gourmand with a salted caramel touch, and of course it's got some boozy touches and ambery touches in the dry down. It eventually gets leathery as well, and some, you know, unique fruitiness and rose notes thrown in to give you a really kind of an interesting contrast. It settles to an amber woody fragrance, but very much a cocoa fragrance, not necessarily fully chocolate, but cocoa powder is what I get with this one, along with that caramel, the salted caramel touch. So you get this kind of thick and gloppy kind of a wear when you're wearing a kind of a creaminess from that caramel note. But this is not my all-time favorite from the cacao collection with this house Maison Tahiti, but it is definitely really delicious, and I like that contrast of the salted caramel against all the other notes. It does get very ambery, as I said, and woody when it's drying down, but cocoa is king here, along with that salted caramel. So this is Cacao, or Vicious Cacao, from the house of Maison Tahiti. Moving on to the house of Parfums Cortana, it's Hierophante, this one right here. So the video I shot last year at the atelier where LUCA MAFFEI works, he discussed this fragrance, he created this, and so you should definitely tune into that video to hear him talk about this and a bunch of other fragrances that he had recently worked on. But this is a fragrance I featured in my Scent Club mystery box. Very unique fragrance, and it's actually an award winner at the Art and Olfaction Awards that took place in LA earlier this year. It's suede leather, gasoline accord, nutmeg, styrax pyrogene, vetiver, and amber. Very unique. You definitely pick up the gasoline, and you get this very interesting auto exhaust kind of smell, but it turns into leather. But it's a very, very unique fragrance. Those of you that like unique and non-conventional fragrances definitely need to check out things like this. But if you like the idea of greasy, car exhaust, gasoline, you know, tires and rubber and things like that, you definitely need to get your nose on this one because it's a very unique fragrance. But either way, this is Cortana, Parfums Cortana, Hierophante, and that is a fragrance launched in 2022. All right, next up, going to the house of Zoologist Perfumes, it's Harvest Mouse, this one right here. Who's a fan of this one? I don't know what it is about this one. I get a jazz club kind of a vibe with this. Jazz Club by Maison Margiela. Definitely not that, but the kind of where it is. It's kind of a balmy, ambery fragrance. But this fragrance features notes of vanilla, vanilla, Roman chamomile, benzoin, there's a beer extract, sandalwood, hay absolute, Peru balsam, orange blossom, but it's very creamy, smooth, and cozy for sure, and it's really a cute fragrance. You definitely experience the cuteness of this fragrance. You know, the Harvest Mouse is here. There's definitely the qualities of this kind of grassy, wheat-like touch in here as well, but very, very cozy, very ambery too, because it does get ambery, but it's got that kind of weird balminess that's really, really prominent in fragrances like Jazz Club from Maison Margiela. I don't know if you guys get the connection, but there are other fragrances that are similar to Jazz Club, and I'm not saying this is identical, but it's that experience, that kind of balmy, kind of muted kind of an amber experience, which is what I get with this one. But definitely very vanillic and also very ambery with this one, and that beer extract is very, very unique. So this is Harvest Mouse from the House of Zoologist Perfumes, and I should say the chamomile is what gives me that kind of grassy, wheat-like touch in that fragrance. But moving on to a house called Olibanum, we've got two small fragrances here. We've got Ambrette and we've got Opopanax. So I spoke about this house a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I also featured their Sakra fragrance in Mystery Box. But I wanted to highlight these two fragrances because I read that he created these two. And these are great to layer. You've got Ambrette and you've got Opopanax, or the other way around. And so when you layer these two together, you get this kind of a fruity, musky, smoky combination. You can wear them individually. Ambrette is basically Ambrette note, which is basically a vegetal musky note, powdery with frankincense, and the other one is Opopanax, benzoin, cistus, frankincense, pink pepper. I take this fruitiness back. There's no fruitiness here. It's all about resins. So basically you're getting a very resinous, ambery touch here because there's no fruitiness in Opopanax, and I was thinking of another note for some strange reason, but Opopanax is a really beautiful myrrh-like note, so there's a sweetness in there. It's beautiful and ambery. Anyway, the great combination of fragrances here, very easy to wear on their own, but also great to layer with. So if you haven't tried these fragrances, definitely go catch my video where I'm talking about this house. It's called Olibanum. And the last two fragrances I'm going to talk to you about are from the house of Laboratorio Olfativo, which launched this year, earlier this year. I have a video on the channel. Now, LUCA MAFFEI has done fragrances for this house that are older than these. I don't have them here, but I do have these latest two. We've got Miss You and Till. So Miss You is sort of an ambery fragrance with warm spices that reminds me of Musk Ravageur, but not necessarily very musky, more of the amber and spices. That is Miss You. Really great fragrance and really inexpensive as well. Those of you that want an alternative to Musk Ravageur, you can totally, wear Miss You. And reminds me of a beautiful day, late spring, early summer, when you're just walking under linden blossom trees and you've got this blooming of linden blossom flowers that are hitting your nose and you're just kind of like intoxicated by that smell. Both of these are really great fragrances. It depends on which one you like more. I really enjoy it because it's that linden blossom that I keep saying that I'm kind of obsessed with as a smell lately, especially after, getting out of a car where I smelled the linden blossom. So those have really done something to me where I really crave that smell. But Miss You is also great if you're looking for an alternative for Musk Ravageur. Anyway, these are my thoughts on these fragrances that are created by LUCA MAFFEI. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances, and let me know other fragrances that he's created that I have not mentioned here. As I said, I don't have every single fragrance that every person has created or every brand has, so I can't talk about everything, but I had these and I wanted to get this video out about this perfumer that I have met several times and I see over and over again at the shows that I go, and I wanted to highlight his fragrances, so in case you guys don't know, you can find out more about him. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.